Hello y'all, welcome back. And today we are doing the last of Christy's beautiful life, best of 30 days of sketches. And I am super excited about this one. This is the sketch here. It is designed by Creative Scrappers, and I am only going to sort of follow this sketch. I have an idea that I have been kind of mulling over since last night. I was going to go in a completely different direction with this sketch and had a completely different collection that I was going to use, but then I was watching a video on YouTube last night, and this lady was creating basically a piece of art, okay? And I was super inspired by what she did. I don't want to spoil too much as I go ahead here, because I don't know if it's going to actually work, but I was very inspired by what I saw from her, and I immediately thought about this set, this Minte Seaside Escape set, and I have these pictures here of my husband and I out at the Gulf in Galveston. So I decided that was what I was going to scrap, and I had this idea coming to mind. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of try and go with my idea. So I am going to be doing quite a bit of mixed media with this layout. And I'm also going to be using Minte Paper's Seaside Escape. These are just so pretty, you guys. I don't know if you've ever looked through all of these Minte papers for this Seaside collection, but these are just absolutely gorgeous. And so I have some ideas. And so let me go get started. The first thing I want to do is prep my paper, and that is going to be to put some gesso on it and get that dried up so that I can start with the mixed media. So I will be back once I get that all prepped, and then we'll get started. See you in a minute. All right, y'all. So I have my background all gessoed. I used Liquitex clear gesso on the background here, and I have gone ahead and dried it, and it is all ready. So let me just kind of tell you what my plan is for this sketch. So like I said, I'm not going to be completely following this sketch. I'm going to be doing these two triangles back here, but I'm not really going to be doing these two separate ones here. This whole thing up here is going to kind of be one part. I will try to set apart, maybe by some embellishments here and here. We'll see how things go as I get going, but what's in my head, it's not going to necessarily have these two separate triangles and this separate triangle here, but it is going to have these. And let me show you my plan. So I was flipping through my Seaside Escape 6x6, and I came across two different papers. One of them, let me just show you the full papers first. One of them was this paper here, and the next one was, I gotta find it, this paper here. So I kind of liked the shore aspect of these two papers. So this is what I did. When I was off camera, I went ahead and I fussy cut out what is going to be in these two, what's going to represent those two triangles, which is this. This is going to represent that triangle here, and this here is going to represent that triangle there. So I think you guys can kind of see where I'm going with this. The rest is going to be mixed media and some embellishments. And of course, here's my photos. Again, I don't know how I'm going to lay these out yet. I haven't quite decided. The sketch has them like this, but I don't really know if that's what I want to do or not. We'll see. Oh, and also I want to show you guys, I printed out my title. So this is my title. I did this on my Cricut, and it's going to be down by the seashore. I haven't quite figured out how I am going to paint that all up yet, but I will. And when I have all that, y'all will see. So let me go ahead and I will fast forward, and I will show you what my plan is for my mixed media on the background. Okay, so stay tuned. All right, y'all. So as I said, this project is a mixed media frenzy, pretty much. That's almost everything that I did on this piece is mixed media. So how I wanted to start that off first is I have my pieces that I cut out down there of the shoreline and the different lighthouses. And I went ahead and I traced along those so that I would see where they were going to sit and where I needed to bring my mixed media down to. And then I kind of made the horizon line up there because I am going to make a seascape type of scene on this. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is I am going to get my shimmers out, and I'm going to start with the sunset portion of it because of course I need to do a sunset. Back when I was in high school, I actually did an oil painting that is kind of inspiring what I do for this sunset here. In high school, it was a complete total mistake of how it ended up, but I thought it looked so cool, and it looked more stormy than it looked sunsetty, and so I'm kind of going with that vibe here too, and we'll see how it turns out here. But at this point, I am just using my shimmers. The yellow is, I believe, mustard seed. Yes, it's a mustard seed vibes. And then the pink is cotton candy, and that's a spritz. And I am just using those two. And you see, I'm doing kind of the packaging method, sort of. And also, I'm just kind of moving the paper about once I get the ink on there. I'm not very good at the packaging technique. I am going to be honest with you. I've tried it multiple times and I don't know. I like how it distributes the ink, but I don't get those cool effects like everybody else seems to get. So I just work with it, do the best that I can. So at this point, like I said, I am just trying to get that sunsetty yellows and pinks and oranges in the sky. And when I move the paper back and forth like that, and add a little bit of water here and there, and then I get like those mixed colors together and it ends up making the orange. So for the sky portion, I'm going to start working on the blue sky portion of it now. And I went ahead and I dried the pinks and yellows just a little bit. They're not completely dry, but they're mostly dry so that it's not running completely together at this point. And for the sky, I am using, I believe it is, let me look, Seize the Day. And let me look at my little case here because I want to say it's something different, but I'm pretty sure it's Seize the Day and I guess maybe Frostbite. I think that might be what it is. Yeah, I think so. So Frostbite and Seize the Day, or else it's Chinny Be Blue, but I don't think so. I think it's Frostbite and Seize the Day that I'm using up there. And I'm just kind of mixing them together and just putting them on with the packaging technique too. But I'm kind of, at that point, you could see me, I just kind of like dumped it on there and then just pressed it down a little bit because I want the majority of the ink to be up in that area. And yeah, I can see that it starts to turn a little greenish color right there. I really don't mind that because when you have, you know, a sunset or when you have all of these colors mixing together in the sky, they kind of sometimes make that muddy greenish color, especially if it's a little bit stormy outside or the possibility of that. So I kind of like the effect that it has. As you can see, I'm making a giant mess. You guys, my hands were blue by the time I got done, and I think they still are a little bit blue today. I am doing this voiceover the next day because I had a lot of technical difficulties with my phone yesterday, and I didn't even finish the video till late. I didn't finish the page until late, and then I did not have time to do a voiceover and upload since my internet is the slowest internet on the face of the earth, so it takes forever. Okay, so along with the packaging technique, I also decided to use my brush. And it's at this point that I'm kind of emulating that oil painting I did back in high school. It had a lot of these, it almost looked like cloudy bits, and you can pretend they're clouds or whatever you want to do. I kind of pretend that there are some clouds in the sky, kind of like a little bit stormy clouds or heavy clouds, I like to call them. And I just used my paintbrush to kind of bring those streaks over into the sunset portion, and they look like clouds. Now that it's dry and it's sitting in front of me, it looks a lot more like clouds than it does there. But once it's dried up and you see the completed product, I think that you'll be able to pull kind of that cloudiness away from it as well. It never quite looks the same when it's wet. You gotta wait till the mixed media is dry, and then you can really see the color variations and the designs and the different patterns of the paint. So this is pretty much it, and it's kind of dry there. I didn't wait completely. I just used my heat gun and dried it the best I could. So now is the part that I saw someone do online, and I really wanted to try it. So I am taking some of my modeling paste, and I am going to create the sea portion with my modeling paste. I'm not going to make you watch the entire time that I filled this with modeling paste because it did take quite a while, and this video is already over 30 minutes long, and when I got done and left everything in, it was like 40 minutes long. And I was like, no, that's kind of long. So I'm starting off with the modeling paste, just putting it along the horizon because I did want that straight horizon that looks like it's, you know, kind of melting into the sky. So I did that first, and I'm really particular and careful about the way I am doing the horizon because I just don't want it to go up onto my skyline. So once I get that done, you'll see I go a bit faster here with the modeling paste. Excuse me. And I don't know how much you'll see of it, but I do kind of go back and make like kind of wave shapes in the modeling paste so that it kind of just has this swirly look to it. It's really, really cool once I get done with it. I wasn't sure how this was going to turn out, and so I was just going for it. I was like, hopefully this turns out okay. But as you can see, all right, there I am getting done putting the modeling paste on. And I did leave a little bit on the bottom, you know, because I'm going to be covering that up anyway. So I don't need it to go all the way. So I dried that modeling paste for quite a while with my heat gun. It is not completely dry because it takes at least overnight. Now today I can feel it and it feels dry, but even like hours after I finished last night, it still felt kind of damp, I guess I would say. But I found it to work pretty well to start painting on it once I got it mostly dried. So I'm starting off with Lapis Dance from Shimmers, and this is a Creamies. So I started off being really, really careful up along that skyline again, the horizon, because I didn't want to have it bleed up into the sky, because that's just not, I didn't want that dark blue up in the sky. And once it dries, it's not going to be this dark. So, you know, you got to kind of keep that in mind. But once I got that horizon done, I felt good enough to just kind of dump some on the page. And then I'm just taking my brush and just kind of moving it around a bit. Nothing is perfect about this and nothing is planned about this. It's just, it is what it is. I am going to go ahead and add the other two blues to it now. That first one is Frostbite and it's a Vibes. And the other one is going to be Seize the Day, which is also a Vibes. And I used so much of my shimmers, guys. I'm going to have to make another shimmers order because some of these I used like half the bottle on this, but it was worth it. Once it gets done, I hope y'all will think so too, because I really, really love how this turned out in the end. But so you can see I'm just kind of dumping a bit of it on there and adding a little bit of water, and then I'm just going to let it blend together. And the effect that it has, it's a lot more subtle than you would think with the differences of the colors, because that Frostbite has kind of a purpley tone to it. But when it mixed in with Seize the Day, which is like a greeny blue, it's very much a sea color, but when it mixes in with that Lapis Dance and that Frostbite, it comes up with this really cool like ocean blue color. I just think it looked really pretty. And I add a little bit here and there just when it feels like maybe I don't have quite enough. And I wanted a little bit more of that purpley tone to show through, so I added a bit more of the Frostbite. And then up here under the sunset, I wanted the lighter color, which is Seize the Day, because that one does more of that greeny, I don't even know what color. It is greeny tealy color, and it's much lighter. So when I mix the frostbite in with it, it gets darker. It's a really, really cool look. Just like I started off with the lapis dance, I go ahead and I use my paintbrush to kind of spread this out and see how I'm going lighter up by the sunset. That is purposeful. I wanted it to be lighter in that section so that when I come back later and paint in the reflection, then it will not be super dark in that area, and it will take to the yellow a lot easier. So I did have a method to my madness here as I was doing this, and I let you guys watch the entire process of painting in the water because honestly I feel like this is the coolest part of this project, seeing how the paint reacted with that modeling paste and those different streaks and wave marks. I just thought it was really cool, like how it would stay dark in some areas, and then in some areas it would just be lighter. And there was no real rhyme or reason. I mean, maybe it had to do with the fact that some of that modeling paste was still wet. Not really wet. I can't even explain it. It's like almost just damp, I guess, but not even really, because if you touched it, it felt dry. But it was still kind of moldable at that point, so it wasn't like completely hardened. I guess that's the best way to describe it. And so it was just really cool, like watching how that paint would react with that and how it would distribute. I just thought it was really neat, and I loved the whole process of painting that water on there. So as you can see on the bottom, there's that big white patch. It doesn't stay that way just because I have extra paint there, and I just go ahead and fill it in with the extra paint that is sitting there. But I didn't feel the need to have to cover it completely. So there it is, and I have dried it up a bit. That's just what came from that first application. I am going to mess with this quite a bit over the course of this, and I left a lot of it in so that you guys could see how I added the detail to the waves and how I paint this whole reflection. So I'm going in and doing the reflection now. I'm using Bumblebee Bee, and that is a shimmers, an original shimmers. So it's very, very sparkly and very thick compared to the others. That's what I'm going in with. I made kind of a shape of the sun there, and now I'm going in and I'm painting just a bit of it over that lighter blue that I did in the water, and I'm making the beginnings of that reflection. This is not by far the end of what I do with that reflection. I come back with several colors and add them in, and I really, really love how it ended up. I'm really happy with this page, and I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it in the end because I was trying several things that I had not done before, and it was a really nitpicky page. You know, like sometimes we just have these pages where we have to spend an inordinate amount of time trying to get the effect that we want it to have. And, you know, I had this in my head about what I wanted this to look like, and I really had to work at it to get it there. So over the Bumblebee, I am adding a bit of Glorious Day, which is a gold vibes. And I just felt like it needed a bit of the gold tone along with the yellow. Bumblebee is a pretty yellow. And I wanted a bit of that gold of a sunset to come through. So I kind of outlined the sun a bit. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the close-ups later, but it's almost like there's rays coming off the sun with how I ended up adding that Glorious Day. And I think here is where you're going to see me doing some more of that. Okay, yeah. So I'm coming up off from the sun here with that Glorious Day, and then I just kind of blot it with my finger because I don't want the harsh lines at all. I don't want any sort of harsh lines at all. And so I went ahead and I blotted it with my finger and then with a little tiny bit of paper towel. And it really does give that effect of like sunbeams coming off from the sun. So I thought that was pretty cool how that ended up. I'm not sure if that's what I was going for, but that's what ended up happening. And I really liked it a lot. So I'm letting that dry. I am not done, like I said, at all with that reflection on the water. You will see me come back at it later. But I thought I would go ahead and add in the two bottom triangles of the layout. So I had said in my introduction that this was the biggest part of the sketch that I was going to keep, was those two bottom triangles. But you know, I kind of stuck to this sketch in my own sort of way, and I will tell you as I go, like how I thought about the design of this and how those triangles came into play, even though they're not immediately noticeable. I'm hoping maybe you will kind of recognize where my brain went with how to create these triangles. So I'm just going ahead and I am adding in the what did I call it? The shoreline. It does have several different lighthouses, and I apologize for that. My camera stopped because my phone was full. So that was some of the technical difficulties. So you didn't get to see me put the second half on. And in the center, I cut out another little lighthouse, and I popped that up on some foam over the line, the crease, I guess, between the two halves. So now you can't even see that they were two different pieces. And now I'm coming in and I'm doing some highlights on those waves with the lapis dance. And this really, really adds some dimension. And I really am happy that I did this. I just came back in over top again, and I just tried to highlight some of those back waves so that we could have that deeper, darker color. And now I'm going back into my sunset, and I'm going to add some yellow to orange to my reflection. And this is orange sherbet, and that is also an original Shimmers paint. This I'm just adding a little bit of it, just to kind of bring that orangey tone down into the water as well, because we do have some, as you can see up above the sun with the sunset, and I thought, well, I think that there should be a little bit of orangey reflected back on the water as well. So I went ahead and added just a bit of that to the outside, and I widened that reflection. And again, I really like how it looks. I have no issues with how I did this. There's nothing that I look at on this page and think, oh, I wish I would have done this, which I can't say is true for every other page I've ever done, because, you know, a lot of times we get done, we think, I wish maybe I would have done blah, 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 or blah, blah, blah. But this page, I don't have any regrets. So I'll call that a win. At this point, I'm taking out some white acrylic paint, and I'm getting back out the bumblebee because I decided I wanted that sun to be a little bit lighter and brighter, and I wanted a little more highlights in the reflection too. So I went ahead and I put a little bit of bumblebee and some white acrylic paint, and I'm going to go back over that sun, and I'm going to do a few highlights down on my reflection too, and I'm going to bring it down just a little bit further too. And I think that that achieves the effect that I wanted with the sunset. Like I said, I spent a lot of time on this background and a lot of time fussying around with everything to get it to look exactly what I had in my mind. And I don't know if it ended up exactly, because when it comes to art, it's really hard to make things be exactly how they are in your brain. At least for me, I have a hard time doing that. Things, you know, the paint doesn't go quite as the same as I see it in my head, or it comes out a little lighter or a little darker, just whatever. But I am not at all unhappy with how this turned out. And at this point, so I'm going to just take some white acrylic paint, and I'm going to fast forward through this part. Well, I'm going to skip ahead on this part after you see kind of what I'm doing. I'm just taking some white, and I am painting in where the water turns white when it breaks upon the shore. So I do that around that whole shoreline, and I don't think you need to watch all of it, but I think I show you pretty much this beginning half of it, and just how I add a little bit of white. You can't see a lot of it on camera, but in person, you can see it much better, and it really does differentiate where the water is hitting the shore. And I just love that. I think that it just adds a little bit more dimension, texture, and realism to it. even though it's not at all real, but I just think it adds so much more to it, and I'm really glad that I did it. It didn't turn out perfectly like how my brain, again, this is one of those times where my brain saw something differently and I was not particularly able to create it exactly the way my brain saw it, but I'm happy with how it turned out. I'm happy with that little break that it gives. And there I go. I went ahead and skipped ahead for you so you didn't have to watch me do it around the entire thing. And I only did it where the shore would be touching the water. So if you notice, I did not do it above the umbrella. I did not do it above the buildings because they're not touching the water. So I did not do it there. All right, one last little thing for my sunset is I am going to add a little bit of pink, and you can only see it slightly on the water. It almost gives this like purpley tinge up on that part of the water where there's a lot more of the pink. So I wanted to add that as well. And you know, you can't see it too much, but I can see it enough to make it worth my while to add it there. So now I am going to mat my photos. I'm doing something very simple. When it came to embellishing and matting my photos, I went very simple because I didn't really need to do much of anything on this page because, I mean, the background is really the showstopper here. This is what's going to draw everyone's eye. When I look at this page, my eye, sorry about that, I hit my camera, which I do often. I apologize. When I look at this page, my eye is drawn immediately to the sunset portion of it. That's just, and I think for everybody else, that is probably going to do that as well. I kind of thought when I first started it that it might be drawn to the shoreline, but I was wrong. It is that sunset, and it's so pretty, you guys. In person, I wish you guys could see it in person because it just turned out so pretty. And my mom said this is one I need to put in a shadow box and hang up, and she might be right. I might have to do that because it's too pretty to be in a scrapbook and closed. So we'll see. That may happen. All right, so I matted my photos and I just used that little seashell paper, and that's it. I did not double mat, nothing else. I left a little bit showing so that we could see a little bit of the seashells, but other than that, I did not do anything else. And my title, which I created and cut out in my Cricut, I went ahead, it reads Down by the Seashore in case you can't see it. I'm just going ahead and I'm inking the bottoms in kind of that ombre effect. And I'm going to go ahead and it's just that simple. I used a blue stamp pad from Stampin' Up that I've had forever. It's called Island Indigo, which I think works really well. And I love how it looks. It's very subtle, and my title doesn't take away from the water, and I was afraid that it might, but it doesn't. So I'm going to put it on here in just a minute, and I'm excited for you guys to see it because it's perfect. At this point, I am just sticking a few things that I fussy cut out of that Seascape or whatever it was called from Minte. On the front and back covers, it had a few things that you could fussy cut. So I fussy cut out the flowers, the bunch of flowers, a few seashells, an anchor, and a starfish. And I'll bring it back in just a minute. I'm not going to make you watch me like tape all of this stuff down because that took forever. And this is long enough, so I don't think you need to see that. But I will bring it back in a minute, and it'll be pretty close to what that looks like once I get it all taped down. But look at the title. Like, I just love the way those colors came out because you can see it there on the water, but it does not take away from the water. It's almost like it just blends in perfectly with the water. All right, so I went ahead off camera and I glued down my title. I glued down all of my embellishments, and now I'm sticking this cute little pelican canvas Flair from Scrap and Happy Studios up there on the top, and he is so cute, and it says Ocean Breeze on it. It's adorable. Once I get the close-ups, you'll see it. He is just perfect for this layout. And at this point, what am I doing? I can't see what I'm doing. Oh, am I putting the little sailboats on? Okay, so I fussy cut a couple of little sailboats out too. They were on the same page as the lighthouses, and so I just went back to my scraps from that and I cut out a couple of little sailboats. So I've got one there that's got a seagull with him, and then I've got that little guy up there, and he's going to stay right there as well. So as one of the finishing touches here, I am just about done. I took some of my hemp twine because there are some rope elements here on this page. Down at the very bottom of the lighthouses, the shoreline pieces, there is rope on there. And then also around the anchor that I ended up putting into my my cluster up there, there's rope. So I decided it would look really cool if I just took a piece of hemp twine and just kind of wrapped it around the cluster. And I really love how it turned out. I just think it was that one last little added bit that this needed. And it just, like I said, you guys, I'm not unhappy with anything on this layout, and I can't believe that. It's so rare that I come away from a layout and I am perfectly happy with it. So there's how it looks with the twine, and then I'm just going to glue down a spot or two, and just to keep it in place so that it doesn't want to pop off. And I have, I think, one last little finishing touch that I am going to do here, which is to draw in some seagulls up on the top. And so I want to kind of tell you guys about, I said I would try to follow along the sketch with those other two triangles. So this is how my brain sees this. So we've got the shoreline on the bottom, that is the bottom two triangles. Then we have the pictures, and some of the sky and water is the big triangle. The triangle that's supposed to be up in the upper right hand corner, I kind of view as those seagulls and the sunset. And then my title and the sailboat is the last triangle. So I don't know if your brain can get that like my brain does, but that's how I view it, and that's how I'm justifying it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and that you get inspired as well, just like I was by the lady who I saw do all the water and stuff. And I hope y'all will come back and see me again. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.